Welcome to Confessions of a Parent Coach. I'm Coach, a mother of four, and potty talker, Ann Kaplan. This is the podcast where I confess something from my own parenting and coaching life, teach a lesson around it, and answer your questions. Even we parenting experts are far from perfect, and the real magic happens when we get down with all that imperfection. We get into the gritty side of parenting here, so earbud up and dive in.
Welcome into the podcast, everybody. I'm excited to be here for another episode with you, talking about this week what we're accidentally teaching to our kids or how we are training our kids. So I'm going to talk to you about actually a client session that I had. Let's see, I'm looking at my notes. When did I have it? Back in July. But want to start off with a little bit of a confession for you, obviously, of course. And this confession is related to my youngest kiddo who, because he was the youngest, he really never got like organically ousted from our bedroom and our bed and stuff like that. So we co-sleep with our kiddos when they're very, very little newbies. And, right around like maybe 6 months to a year old, they start sleeping longer and longer through the night, and they spend more and more time in their room and less time in our room. But Sky, that didn't really happen, unfortunately. And now, and then we wound up finally getting him over the hump when he was a little older than one and all of that stuff. And that was great. But we would just have nights all the time. Like, and this kid is 11 years old right now. We would have nights with him all the time where he would either have a bad dream or like I would be asleep and he would just come in my room or whatever. And he was like sleeping in our bedroom, like, I don't know, like 3 times a week or something like that. And he would every night ask if he could sleep in our bedroom. And Mike and I were just like, I just do not get it. Like these other kids, like we did not have this problem at all, So, by the way, anyone out there who's like thinking about co-sleeping, I do not want to scare you off from it. It actually makes your life infinitely easier, and I love it. And please do not, don't take that as the message from this story because that's not what I'm trying to say. Um, it was just more like, what the heck? All of our other kids were sleeping through the night in their own bed by 6 months at the latest. Like this whole constantly sleeping with us thing is really, really weird. And I had a client session with somebody and about not even a similar topic, but just a similar sort of like dynamic where, the client towards the end of the session finally realized like, oh, my kid's acting this way because I trained him to act this way. And I don't know why, but it just finally locked into place for me. And I'm like, duh, I teach this stuff all of the time. This is ridiculous. Sky's sleeping in our bed all the time because and asking to sleep in our bed all the time because we trained him to. We say yes a lot. We don't kick him out of bed if we're both asleep and he comes in bed. I can't be bothered to kick him out. And why on earth would he have learned any other way of being? I never taught him any other way of being. And I never held any boundaries around this thing. And so this is like, it's such a great little moment of realizing like, you're always teaching your kid, even when you're doing it by accident. Like the thing about kids is that they're sponges. We all know this. They'll start parroting your words or your facial expressions. And you're like, wait a minute, that is an unflattering reflection. I don't like this mirror. So that means that we're always teaching them. We're modeling for them all the time. And modeling is one of the most powerful ways we teach kids. And they're having experiences all of the time. And that's the second most profound kind of learning that a child receives is through their experiences. And so this is why setting consequences and boundaries is so important, because by doing that, we're sort of engineering experiences for our kids so that they're learning, because kids are never not having experiences, which means they're never not learning something. So always, 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 we are training our children to do something. I trained Sky to ask me to sleep in my bed every single night. He didn't just start doing that by accident. I literally taught him to do that. The same as if I had taught him to put his napkin in his lap at the dinner table. I taught him to do this thing that was driving me crazy. And all of this stuff came back into my mind recently, back in July, when I was having a session with one of my dad clients who has a dynamic with one of his kiddos where his kiddo is like Mr. Congeniality out in the world and a total jerk to his dad and poking at him, almost like antagonizing him. It's not just like not being respectful or whatever, but really clearly saying and doing things designed to get a rise out of him. And then also kind of using him a little bit as a punching bag, like just anything that's going wrong in his life, he blames his dad for it. Anytime that he's having a bad day, he takes it out on his dad. Just really not nice. And it really is just crushing this dad who loves his kid, obviously, so much, but also is so tenderhearted. Total sidebar, but he's an Indian type too. So if you know what that means, it means that he is literally the most empathetic, helpful, giving person on the entire Enneagram. And he's just constantly wearing his heart on his sleeve and begging to be loved in all of his ways and all of his energies. And that is the kind of person who is just so deeply wounded by someone treating them cruelly this way, even if it's their kid, you know? And so obviously lots of work to do there, lots of growth to do there. But the thing I want to hone in on for today's podcast recording is the conversation that he finally had with his son, where he was just like, why do you treat me this way? Like, why are you doing this to me? And the son said, because you can take it. And we had a whole session that came just from those little two back and forth sentences. Why do you treat me this way? Because you can take it. That means so much. There's so much that's like packed into that, because you can take it. And there's so much packed into that. Why do you treat me this way? Right. When a parent says that to their kids, they're not actually genuinely curious. They are so hurt, and they are coming at the situation from this idea that, like, if you were a nice and loving person, you would never do this to me. And what you're doing to me is you're doing it to me. It's because of something about me, and it's because of the way that you feel about me, and it hurts. So like I said, lots of things to unpack there and room to grow there on dad's part. What does it mean when this kiddo says, because you can take it? To me, what that says is I have a world of intense emotions, frustrations, and, you know, uh, anger, maybe sadness, emotion inside of me that I can't, for whatever reason, I don't feel that I can express it in anywhere else. And so I'm putting it all on you. I'm using you as my sort of like emotional exorcism tool. And you have never stopped me from doing that. That's what it means when this kiddo says, you can take it. Why does he think you can take it, Dad? Because you've shown him that you can take it, because you have taken it this whole time. So you have trained your son to believe that you can take it. That's what you told him with your actions and with your behavior. You have taught him that you can take any amount of abuse from your child, and that there are absolutely no ramifications to doing that. So if we train our kids to behave this way, we also can train them not to, by taking care of ourselves, which is the hardest thing for a two to do, and why exactly how this dad has gotten himself in this predicament. Instead of having boundaries of like, you know what, that was an unkind way to treat me, and I'm happy to engage with you about this once you are ready to speak to me with a little bit more kindness, and walk away. That's a terrifying thing for a two to do, because that means that they have someone they love who has a need or is suffering, and they're not the ones to help. And helping is the way that a two feels safe in the world, by not only making sure that the people are happy, but that the people are happy because of them. And so what I'm telling this dad to do is the exact opposite of that, is to say, seems like you're having a struggle. I'm really sorry. And I respect myself as much as I respect you. So I'm not going to put myself in this position. And it's your struggle, not mine. And I'm here to support you when you are ready to, level up the way that you treat me. And in the meantime, you're kind of on your own. I mean, no wonder this dad has struggled to do that since we've started working together. And no wonder he has never done it before. And he's been doing the exact opposite. And so, once again, this story, it illustrates so much because it really underscores what you hear me say all the time on the podcast, which is my job as a parent coach when I'm working with parents is to teach them two huge things: the actual parenting skills that they need to start implementing, and also how to take care of themselves and level up their own inner game, do their own personal work so that they'll actually use those skills. We need both of those things. Like, this dad has been working with me for about 4 months now. We have been talking about this exact same skill for 4 months straight: the skill of letting other people sit in their shit and seeing that as an act of love and walking away and letting that be amazing, amazing parenting. And for someone who doesn't have the same struggle as this dad, that might seem blatantly obvious and really easy to do. But for this dad, it's incredibly hard. And the only way that he's going to be able to do it is for him to do that personal growth work of realizing that things like boundaries and space and walking away and self-respect are actual acts of service for his child, just as much as sitting there and being a punching bag, or actually, I would say even more than sitting there and being a punching bag or rescuing him when he gets himself in a pickle and all of that stuff is. And that requires sort of that raising consciousness, increasing self-awareness, becoming more self-actualized, doing our own personal work. So many takeaways from today's episode. That first one that we're talking about is like, if you're always training your child, ask yourself, what am I training my child to do right now? What is the actual like experience that my kid is having, and what are they learning from that? And when my kid is misbehaving, can I look at it as something that I actually taught him to do? And realize that there's a different way for me to show up that enables my child to make different choices. And then also that important omnipresent message that we have to do our own personal growth work, or else we will never change the way that we're interacting with our children. We can't learn to train our kids to do different stuff if we don't get out of our own way. And that's what that personal growth work is all about. If that sounds like something that you're ready to undertake in a more like concrete way, please set up yourself that free discovery call you hear me talk about every week. I'm here for it. I can't wait to hear from you. I can't wait to help you figure out what is that personal growth work, and then what are those new parenting skills that we want to implement. Let's look at what you've trained your kid to do so far and what you want to start helping them learn to do instead. Have a great week, everybody, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Bye.
The episode is over, but there's more waiting for you. You can grab my free workbook, Getting Kids to Listen the First Time, that walks you through the fundamental principles I teach all of my clients and applies them to this very universal parenting challenge. So if you're sick of repeating yourself all day long or just want to learn more about my style, you'll definitely want to go to bit.ly/kidswholisten. And if you're ready to work with me, let's meet. Set up a free call at bit.ly/Kaplan call, and let's create an action plan that gets you exactly where you want to go. And of course, links to all this goodness are in the show notes. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.